In this video, we're going to talk about feels to get more body rotation at impact.
All right, click on the subscribe button below. You get a chance to win some free swag with the best comment of the week every week. All you got to do is subscribe, have a chance to win. What'd you say about impact rotation?
We're trying to get a feeling of getting more body rotation at impact. So what are the feels we can use to get there? Because once you have a feeling in mind when you're swinging the golf club, it makes it a lot easier to position your body.
So let's kind of paint the picture of what we want to get first. So let's go down the line to the camera here.
So point it at the camera this way?
Yeah, other way. Put
Okay,
your
this way.
backswing to the camera, yeah.
Okay.
So give us that classic open rotation at impact.
Yeah.
So we can see the left hip from down the line. We can see, or we can't see really, the left forearm, left bicep. All that stuff's rotated. Hands are out in front of the front leg or in front of the front leg. And all of those things are what create that classic look. Now let's show them face on what we got.
Well, let me make a quick point.
Okay.
So at impact here, I'm open with my chest, but I'm not necessarily super open with the line across the shoulders.
That's true. That's true.
Slightly. So it would if I was just level, because there's some tilt, it actually gives those squarish, more squarish
Sure.
look to the shoulder. So
Sure.
you may, if you do it right with some elbow bend, you may see a sliver.
Because this left arm is still kind of up. It's
you
not
may
all
see
the way
some of
pulled
the left
across.
forearm and the right elbow if you have some bend to
Sure.
it. So
Great point.
That's impact from that view. Here, this would be a decent looking impact position.
Right, so we got the hands forward, shaft lean, all that stuff, tilted, rotated, all of that. Now, that's what we want to get into, right? We're all not going to get into that. So let's start with that, right? We all have body limitations. We all have
Absolutely.
physical impediments along the way. But we can all improve our body rotation. You disagree with that?
Everybody can.
All right, so let's go over some feels to help ourselves, and I put myself in this category for sure, help ourselves get some body rotation at impact.
So let's go think about a different sport. I'm gonna pretend I got a tennis racket.
Okay.
Okay. Got the handle here. I got the racket hid this way. Okay. It's facing the target. So if I just held the racket and did a single-handed forehand with a low ball, right? I would wind up, wait for the shot, and coming down, I would hit it this way with the racket facing the net, right? And to do that, my body would naturally start to open.
Yep.
And I think what we see a lot of golfers do is stay back and scoop the
Right.
tennis racket this way, which is send the ball up in the air. So it's almost a feeling like you're driving the ball downward a bit,
Yes.
right? And you talk about maybe Henrik Stenson.
Henrik Stenson described that he likes to feel like his right hand is kind of going to brush the ground or slap the ground. If you've ever had the chance to stand next to him on a driving range or watch him hit on the driving range, he is trying to hurt the ground.
Yeah.
So he is absolutely doing that in his swing. It's a feel that he's really kind of getting this backhand, this trail hand, really kind of positioned to really strike the ball on a descending blow.
And if you could do this with your buddy. If I held my hand out like this and let Mike, or I'll do it, I would take it back and I would slap his hand this way. You can see the body start to open up. You would never kind of go back this way.
Yeah, let's show him that from face on.
Okay, so Mike is going to put his hand out. I would wind up and hit it. You can see my right shoulder would actually come out towards his hand. I'd be open with my hips and my shoulders, and I'd strike it with a little bit of angle in the back of my wrist. I wouldn't go this way.
Right. So it's not an uppercut.
It's not an uppercut.
So it's more of that kind of boom down somewhere out in front rather than up at the camera, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one good way to get a feel for having the body more open at impact. The thing that's going to hold you back from doing that, so we always say, okay, well, obviously that's fairly simple.
Right.
But why don't people do it?
Well, it sounds easy enough.
So the reason why you probably, if you're unsuccessful, we always say you got to go back in the chain a little
Yes.
bit. If you're coming down with an open club face late in the downswing, you're going to probably do this about one time before you quit. Okay,
Yeah.
because you're going to hit the guy next to you on the range, or you're going to shank it off the building
That's right.
there, and you're going to hit. It's unplayable. So if you thought about the tennis racket, I would never fan the tennis racket open and try to hit it with the frame.
That's right.
So if I twisted it and hit it with the and tried to hit it with a frame, I would not be able to play tennis. So you actually, tennis is a pretty good way to think about it because the racket is actually angled in a way where it's more square to the ball when you make contact, not the frame, right? So if you're having a hard time getting in this position, well, put yourself in a good position pre-impact, right?
It's one of our favorite drills, right?
Yeah.
Get kind of this spot.
So get in this delivery position,
Right.
and to feel that for yourself, set up to the ball, stand up and then flop your arms in front of you, and you'll feel kind of the right elbow bent, the left wrist pretty flat, the right wrist bent back.
Yep.
Now bend forward and put a little weight forward.
Yep.
Now you're in this delivery position where the club face is maybe even angled toward the ground a little. Now I can slap it. Now if I did let's say an open palm similar to what we were doing a minute ago, I could do that motion and get my body where I need to be.
So it's really organizing that club face, because we all swing the club face.
Yeah.
Because unless you're just on the driving range, you really care where that ball goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've said it before, the club face is the CEO.
Yes.
You may make some good swings and start hitting terrible balls and don't realize it, that the club face is the major culprit. And that's why you start making these different compensating body movements.
Yes.
Right? So the impact feel is slap the hand with the right hand here, right? Or hit the tennis ball, hit the forehand shot in tennis. You're going to feel a lot more open. But in order to do that, you got to have the face positioned the right way.
We see very few golfers who so the best way to say this, we see very few golfers who are really have that coveted open through impact with poor club face.
Absolutely.
Right? If you've got a poor club face, you're typically going to see poor rotation at impact, because you have to.
Absolutely.
You've got to slow this down so this can catch up and hopefully try to square it up.
Absolutely. So that gives you some feels for impact. We think that's we like to give you simple things to take on the course. Feel that low shot in tennis, or feel the slap in the hand. If your buddy's here, you would slap it this way. Almost feel like your right hip and your right shoulder are moving together through the shot, delivering the club face squarely into the back of the ball.
And here's where associating it to other sports.
That's what we like to do.
Dynamic sports. Great way to go about, because impact isn't a position. Right, so you can equate this to other sports. Even if something as simple as picking up a ball and just throwing it right here in front of you will still create those same movements. And you start adding a club head, you start adding a ball, hitting the ball, all those things, you can kind of build on it. But again, start slow, get the movements right, get them in sequence, and then you can start to build speed on top.
We think that's going to help you out. That gives you a good feel for impact. Take it out on the course. We think it's going to help you a lot.